Hello, and welcome to Toastmasters in the Community. I'm your host, Fran Okeson, and sitting with me is Linda Isaacs. Linda, you've been up here with me before. I wanted to just start the show by talking about the fact that Peter, who's on our crew, came up with the theme for this meeting. It's what I am most thankful for, and our newest member of the No Limits Club could not be here today. Most of you know her. She's an ALS teacher, Mary Batchelor. We're very happy to have her as a new member of No Limits Toastmasters. She sent me an email, which I'd like to read, about what she's most thankful for, and they're going to put up her picture now. And this is Mary Batchelor, who will be on again. There's Mary Batchelor, and you can leave it up for a minute. And she says, "Good afternoon, Fran. I would like to have been on the show, but I will be out of town." Next is a little personal. Then I go down here. "I'm so excited. Then I get back and have a commitment out of town for November 3rd and back in time for services on Sunday. But I am most thankful for you and Peter staying strong and keeping Toastmasters alive. God bless. Love you, and lots of hugs, Mary." Mary Batchelor is the past president of our Business Leaders Toastmasters Club that we had to give up its charter this year, and she's also the pastor of the Hands for Christ Community Church in Princess Bay, Staten Island, and it's all done in American Sign Language. Mary Batchelor is a wonderful person who believes in her faith, and everything about her just makes you want to be drawn right in. She's working on a very special project for the people who need signing, and I'm hoping she'll come on to talk to us about it as soon as she can. And now I'd like to have you meet Linda Isaacs, who's enjoying the front table. I see they've dusted it off for us, so we'll go home with no dust bunnies. Linda Isaacs.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. I think we all have a lot to be grateful for, but it can be easy to forget. And so I brought along a gift today that I'm going to be giving to Fran as a way of saying thank you for everything she's done for Toastmasters and for keeping this show going. But what this is, it's a gratitude journal, and it gives 5 slots every day, marked out through the year, to write down at the end of the day what you're grateful for. Of course, it doesn't require a special book to do this, but it's a nice little package to remind us to be grateful. And so, Fran, I'd like to give you a copy of that. So here you can see perhaps what it is,
wonderful.
but it's called the Simple Abundance Journal of Gratitude. And there are many things like that available in bookstores.
That's so wonderful. Thank you. Oh, it's heavy, too. Thank you. Pretty soon I'm going to need a couple of carts when they come here. Linda is very, very thoughtful, and it will be used.
It's something I used myself many years ago, and I found it got me out of a negative jag of thinking and helped me count my blessings. That's what it's good for.
Oh, thank you very much.
And with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker today, who will be Fran Okeson. Her title is "I Am Most Thankful for My Mind." She's speaking from the Humorous Speech Manual, the 5th speech in that manual, and later we'll be hearing from Sue Brooks about what she thought of Fran's speech. So Fran, over to you.
Thank you very much, Linda, and I do appreciate this more than I can tell you. Thank you. And I call the speech Somerset Breezy Point. I grew up in Flushing in Queens, and my aunt was a 6th grade school teacher. My grandmother, she brought my grandmother and me to her house because my grandmother had 3 strokes. She's not blood related, but she was my grandmother in essence. So every summer when school closed, my aunt would pack us all up and take us out to Breezy Point, Amityville, which 10 years ago, Peter and I went out because I wanted him to see where I played during my summer vacations, and they've changed the name from Breezy Point to Pirates Cove. That didn't change anything as far as I was concerned. So I did bring some pictures today, and Isaac's going to put them up. The first one is the bridge, because my aunt had a little bungalow on a little island. There was one street that went down between 2 rows of houses. On our side, we had 4 houses, 4 families. And our backyard was the yacht channel. There's the little bridge. That was the only way to get onto the little island that had just about 9 houses. And after you crossed the bridge, my aunt's house was on the one side. The yacht channel came down the backyard. You'll see pictures of the yacht channel, because that was my backyard. The people across the street, their backyard was the Great South Bay, and we did an awful lot of things in the summer. Now, all year round, there was a restaurant right at the point of our little street. It was called Ciro's on the Bay. And some people were down there spending all year, so of course they did business. We went down to open the house, and what happened was that we used to take a pot across the Ciro's and get Italian food, ravioli we loved, and we'd sit by the fireplace, and we'd go down to open the house, get it cleaned out, sweep it through, and get it ready for the summer months. What did I do in the summer months? I'm not going to talk to you about what I did as a child. I am a vegetarian. I love animals. I hate anything that hurts animals. But in those days, I must tell you, I grew up crabbing, clamming, doing all sorts of bad things to God's creatures. And I just don't want to put my mind back to that we didn't do much shopping in the stores because everything was there for us. I also went blackberry picking. We had a woman who had a couple of apple trees. She said as long as we gave her some of the apples, we could take the other apples home. We had a whole group, maybe 10 kids on that little block. We had a wonderful, wonderful time. All right, now, Bruce Parker opened a ski school, water ski school. And the first picture I'm going to show you here is me. You can take a look at me and laugh. I'm about, I don't know, maybe 12, and I'm sitting on the front of my cousin Bill's sailboat. The picture, that's me in the foreground. I used to wear pigtails, stupid. The boathouse across the channel was my best friend Billy. I met him one summer. His mother and father divorced. His grandmother got custody for the summer months, and Billy Beale and I fell in love. I had my first kiss in that falling down boathouse. And I'm so glad that Peter found those pictures. The other girl in the picture is another one of the children that my grandmother had adopted. But that was my backyard, the yacht channel, and everybody in the family had boats. All right, the next picture will be a canoe and a skiff. And the canoe was the family's. One year I told, it was always painted red, Chinese red. One year I said I wanted to paint it green. My aunt tolerated me. If you want to paint it green, paint it green. You know, I didn't like it green, and the next year it went right back to red again. The other little boat was mine, the skiff. I did everything. My cousin Bill bought a 3.5 something or other Evinrude motor. We put it on the back, and he used to pull the kids behind the boat all the time. But Bruce Parker Ski School gave lessons, but they cost something. I don't remember the cost. I'm too old to remember the little things like money. Anyway, I picked blackberries and grapes. Billy's property went almost half the yacht channel. His grandfather did something with one of the big buildings in Manhattan, and he was a millionaire, but he died early. But it was all wild berries and everything. And I used to stand on Clark's Boulevard, and I used to sell berries to get my money to go and take ski lessons from Bruce Parker. Had a lot of fun doing that. We helped the volunteer fire department. We would go and we'd hear the clang, clang, clang on the fire engines. We'd run. We'd get to wherever the fire was, and the firemen knew us. They trusted us, and we were old. We were like 13, 14. Of course we wouldn't do anything bad. They used to let us hold the hoses and do the fireworks when they took a break. You wouldn't get caught doing that now. I learned how to swim. You know why I learned how to swim? Because I wanted to water ski, and Bruce Parker said you can't water ski unless you learn how to swim. So I went into the water with a big Mae West. My cousin dragged me out to the middle of that channel that you saw, and then he just threw the line in the water, and I started screaming, and he said, you better swim, you got to get back on shore, which I did. I had a weeping willow tree in the backyard. I hated to read. Oh, now I can't stop reading. But I used to go up in the willow tree, and I used to sit up there and read. It was a nice big little X up there. It used to hold me very nicely. I wouldn't trust myself up in a tree now. But when the boaters came down the channel, what did I do? Hello there! I would roar. I would roar. They'd be looking. Finally, they got the idea. They knew it was me up in the tree, and it wasn't funny anymore. Now, water skiing. Well, before the water skiing, let me tell you about archery. I found one of these great big targets on the attic, and I brought it down, and my aunt let me go up to the store, and I got a couple of arrows, and I started shooting them up in the air. I had a lot of fun. Didn't hit the target too often, but I had fun. Until one day, my cousin Jane was next door hanging her wash, and I guess the wind took the arrow and it landed right at her feet. That was the end of the bows and the arrows and the archery. All right, a funny thing. Now I'm sitting up here with a medical doctor. My cousin Jay, my aunt's son, was a doctor out in Rockville Center. And one day there was a big medical convention or whatever, and the doctors were there in their tuxedos. There was a crash on the Long Island Railroad, and they were summoned to get to the railroad, and it was in the papers all over the place that all the doctors came to this accident in their tuxedos. All right, but Jim, his son, and I did something bad. Jay bought himself a speedboat, and I told Jimmy, that in order to get Jay up, the speed had to be 44 miles an hour. So I said, put it at 40. Let's have some fun. So he put it at 40. Jay couldn't get up, and we kept dragging him around. Finally, Jimmy said, "What am I doing wrong?" I said, "Put it up to 44." Jay finally got up. We had so much fun. The next picture that I'm going to ask them very quickly is Bill and me in the canoe, and the last picture shows me my prized possession that summer was my first pair of water skis, and you'll see me with my water skis, and that's my happy years, my summers in Breezy Point, Amityville, and I was glad I had a chance to take my son Peter there about 10 years ago. And that's my summer life. Happy memories. So let's go on with the rest of the show. I guess it's up to me, and thank you for introducing me so well. I have to say that that introduction was Linda's idea because she thought it would flow better if I didn't introduce myself. And it did feel good, and I hope Jane Castellana, I've been practicing her name, and I hope I get it right later, but I hope she'll understand that she will be introducing me, since Isaac didn't let me do too much talking before, so we'll see. All right, so you've introduced me. Okay, I am most thankful about my mind. Well, that was it. So our second speaker, it's Jane, it's Linda, I'm sorry. Linda, I didn't bring my other glasses. Linda, you're doing an icebreaker. I was surprised that you were redoing icebreaker, because you said you were into the Pathways program. Have you been doing that at your other club at all?
I've been working on Pathways at my other club, but in this case, it's an old competent communicator manual that I'm trying to finish up.
Yeah, that's what
so I'm doing a little out of sequence.
Well, I know, because I'm hoping to finish my work on November 27th, and then I am going to get into Pathways, because we're getting new members in Toastmasters, and we have to teach them Pathways. So John Weibel has agreed to get in. He did the assessment, and he was given the path of coaching. What were you given?
I believe I chose strategic relationships.
I'm
not really sure what that means, but I'll always find out as I go through the program.
I called the headquarters at Colorado, and one woman interviewed me, and I said, well, don't give me anything to do with management. I never did that kind of work. So I'm into leadership and mentoring and motivating people. So I figure, and if you're in more than one club, you're allowed to take two paths. Did you know that? So you have that opportunity as well. And I'm glad you're a member of our club here. All right, so Linda, you're doing the icebreaker. I've given you 7 minutes here. Joan, all of these speakers are 7? Okay. And let's see. Joan, you're Linda's thing. And it's, I liked yours because you switched it around. Relationships I am most thankful for. Let's all welcome Linda Isaacs.
I think relationships are part of what helps us develop who we are. The influence that people have on us, the examples that they give us as we go through our lives. And so the relationships that I am most thankful for in my life are those of my parents. My parents were both born in 1922. I'm the youngest child of them. They were both 37 when I was born. And they both grew up on farms, my father in Kentucky, my mother in West Virginia. They were both from a fairly poor background. I think my father felt it more than my mother because at the beginning of the Great Depression, his parents divorced. So he grew up living with his mother and his mother's father, his grandfather, in fairly humble circumstances. He reported that he remembered grinding the corn for their cornbread. They couldn't afford to buy store-bought food. But he and my mother both grew up in families that valued education. So my father and mother met at the University of Kentucky, where their families had sent them to get a college degree. Now, at the beginning of World War II, my parents married, a bit of a rush, as was common in that era, and then my father joined the Army. He had been in ROTC as a college student, and so he became, as he put it later, the world's worst second lieutenant. He saw the movie Casablanca in New York City, and 2 weeks later he was there. He went through North Africa and Italy and then into Germany after World War II was over. My mother was expecting that he would be leaving the Army at that point, but in fact he decided to stay. For one thing, he valued the experiences he was getting. For another, he valued the security of just having a paycheck that came to him very regularly. And so he wound up becoming a career Army officer. And he stayed in the Army until he was in his early 50s, at which time he had to retire and reinvent himself. He actually wound up creating a successful business where he taught courses in cost cost efficiency evaluations. See, to this day, I can't explain exactly what he was doing. He tried to explain it to me, but I could never quite grasp it. But it boiled down to helping the government get the most for its money. And he taught courses to people in the Coast Guard and the Veterans Administration, for example, even after he retired from the Army. It wasn't until after he passed away that we discovered that at one point, even though he loved his career in the military and appreciated the security it gave him, he put it all on the line for somebody else. After he died, I went through his email account and sent out emails to those he'd been communicating with to let them know that he had passed away. And one of the emails I got in return was telling me about something he had never mentioned. But when, several years earlier, he had been stationed at a small Army base where one of the key civilian employees was about to be fired because of some technical issues that the Pentagon had, that his job description didn't match what he was doing, or some crazy thing that's almost impossible to describe in a short speech like this. My father learned about it and basically said, you all need to fix this. He came up with a solution that was ignored, and then my father threatened to resign the Army if they didn't fix this problem. And at that point, people paid attention, everything was sorted out, and this civilian employee wound up keeping his job at, it's in fact Watervliet Arsenal in New York State. He wound up keeping his job for another 20 years after that. And he said in this email that he had told multiple other officers about what my father had done, and none of them could believe that somebody would put their career on the line the way my father had. So I thought it showed great courage on my father's part to do what he thought was right, and also great courage on his part to reinvent himself after he retired from the military, both of which have been great examples for me as I go through my life. And you know, sometimes as you get older, you do have to reinvent yourself. And looking back on how my father did it, I have been encouraged to think that way myself. My mother was the youngest child. She had 4 older brothers, and her theme of life in many ways was nobody's going to tell me what to do, because her older siblings were constantly telling her what to do. She was very smart, and when she was thinking about what she might like to do with her life, she had 2 ideas. She enjoyed art, and she thought about becoming an artist. She also thought that she might like to become a physician. She had 2 older brothers who were physicians. But when she talked to one of them about it, what he advised her was, why don't you become a medical technician and work in a laboratory? That's a really good career for a woman. She was still mad about that 50 years later. But that is, in fact, what she decided to do. The barriers for a woman becoming a physician in the 1940s were so high that she chose not to go in that direction. But she raised her children to not accept those types of limitations. And in fact, of her 3 daughters, 2 of us are physicians, and the other one is a nuclear engineer. So nobody told us that there were things we couldn't do in life. One of the things I really admired about my mother, though, was that she always displayed great curiosity. She was interested in a lot of things. So you would find her home littered in articles and papers and recipes, things she wanted to try, because she had great curiosity and great passion for learning new things, even as she reached the end of her life. She passed away at 95 earlier this year. The final thing I'm really grateful for, though, with my parents was just time, that they both lived to be old enough that I had my opportunity to learn to see them as people, not just as something to depend upon or something to rebel against, but as human beings. And so looking back on their life, I feel like they gave me examples of courage, of curiosity, but also of peace, just to look back on the relationship and be grateful that I was able to learn all the lessons that I did from them. Fran?
Thank you very much. That was lovely.
Thank you.
More than one physician in your family, huh? Wow, very, very nice. Speaker number 3 is Kevin Thompson, a member of our crew. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, Frank.
Now I have to do the duty, don't I?
I hope you do.
Okay. You're doing speech number 9, I love it when he calls. He said, "What speech should I do?" I said, "It's your speech." "Well, what's this number? What's that number?" "Oh, I think I'll do number 9. Okay, and that's Persuade with Power, which is good. You have 7 minutes. Paul Paradise is your evaluator, and your title is "I Am Most Thankful for the Gift of Love." Let's all welcome Kevin Thompson.
Fran, fellow Toastmasters, and TV audience, I'm most thankful for the gift of love. So let's talk about love for a minute. Love is something that you don't hear much about in today's society. In fact, you don't hear much about it in the news. In fact, you don't hear much about love at all. Now you hear a whole lot about hate and anger and ignorance, but people have stopped talking about love. And it hit me. Why? And I thought about it and then realized love is a gift. Love is a gift that has to be given from one person to another. It's something that you have and that you make a conscious choice, a decision to share. Love, kind of funny, it's like a 4-letter word, but so is hate and so many other things. And 4-letter words when I was growing up as a little child was a really bad thing. But love is a really good thing. It's funny because I've often heard it said that God is love. And so when you think about that, if that's true, if God is love, then why is it that we don't hear about it? Is it that people have forgotten about love because they forgot about God? That people don't even think about God in their life? That people are motivated by that things that are against what God would be for? Is that why we're missing the gift of love? If you look at the back of our dollar bill, you'll see written on the back an inscription. And this inscription says, "In God we trust." So let's just replace the word and make it, "In love we trust." If we trusted in love as a country, if we trusted in love as a nation, if we trusted in love from one person to another, then a number of things that you see happening today on a daily basis would not happen at all. If we trusted in love, there would be no hungry people in the street. There would be no homeless. There would be no violence. There would be no shooting. There would be no racism if we trusted in love. Because you can't be in love with one thing and then hate that thing at the same time. You can't be in love with someone that you despise. The actual physical meaning of love is to sacrifice, is to give of yourself, is to deny yourself some pleasures for the opportunity to please someone else. If you think back in your life, there are many times that you've loved. Now, you may not have even called it love, but you've loved. You've given money to somebody that didn't have any. You fed somebody that was hungry. You opened the door for a young lady or a gentleman that had their hands full with packages. You may have even offered to carry the packages for them. All of these things, all of these specific things that you've done are a reflection of love. And every single time you've shared it, you've shared love. You provided the gift. And so my question to you is, how come you're not doing it more often? How come you're not taking the time? And when I say taking the time, being conscious of the fact that there is a need out there for you to share love, for you to give that gift. And I know you've heard it said it's better to give than receive. But I'm here to tell you nothing is better than having the opportunity to also receive love. If you walk around with your hand closed, you say, oh, well, I have this and this is mine and I'm going to keep it. And you have people do that in terms of our country. Well, we're not going to let these other people in because they're the others and this is my country and I'm going to keep it. Well, when you keep your hand closed, nothing gets out. Some people think that's good, but nothing gets in. And it's that fact that you have nothing because you're not willing to give anything that we're missing. So my recommendation to you is to give a conscious choice, make a conscious decision to dare to share love. For you to actually give that gift, a gift that will continue to provide blessings to you and will ripple from you like a stone in a pond to all that are around you, even those that see you demonstrate it, because people that see love give love. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Very, very lovely. Beautiful. Okay, and our next speaker is Lucy Kahn. Hi, Lucy. Long walk now, right? Okay. All right. And Lucy, you're doing from the Storytelling Advanced Manual, speech number 4, The Touching Story. And you have 7 minutes. You have a new evaluator in more ways than one. John Ramassa joined our Smedley Speakers Club last Tuesday night at the meeting. If you remember, his wife, Song, joined the month before. So they came last month, and he showed up at the meeting last Tuesday with a check in his hand. So that was easy. And now he may take part in being part of our crew. So I thought, with your speech title, I thought John would be the most appropriate gentleman in the room to evaluate your speech. Your speech is, I am most thankful for my father. Let's all welcome Lucy Kahn.
Good morning, fellow Toastmaster, viewing audience, guests. Today I'm going to tell about my father. When I was young, I believe I remembered the most important person in my life. He's not only a friend, a mentor, an advisor, a guardian, but most of all, he was my father. My father was very strict when we were growing up, and I was the oldest in the family, and I was very, very, very happy and a very thankful child because he always makes sure that we have everything that I need, and every time Christmas comes, I always ask him to buy me the most important toys, and even if it's the most expensive toys, he will tell me like, oh, we can afford it, but I really want it, and he will come and get it for me. I was very happy to be the oldest one, and at 7 years old, I decided that I have a dream, and I told him that I want to go to America, and he looks at me like, that will be good, but you have to make sure you have to plan. I said, what do you mean plan? And you have to plan, and if you want to go where you are 7 years old, you can go, you have to go and study, and he told me that I have to make sure that I go to school. So he believes in education. So he sent me to a very, very private school. I was very lucky that I went to a private school where I learned Chinese in the morning, and in the afternoon I learned English, Spanish, and Tagalog, which is the national language to the Philippines. I was just so confused at that time on my childhood. And I told her, like, this is going to be my impossible dream. And he said, no, there is no impossible dream. You have to go and make sure that you go and focus on your dreams. But then my dream became really impossible because at age 13, my mother passed away. And at that time, my father was very strict that he wants to make sure that he keep all his children, and I have to take care of all my 5 brothers and sisters. So being the oldest daughter, he always told me that I have to learn the facts of life. And he said, if you live in the mountain, you have to learn how to plant. And if you live by the sea, you have to learn how to fish. So he teach me how to plant trees and plant fruits and vegetables and everything. He teach me how to wash clothes and wash dishes. And I said, why me? And he said, well, you're the oldest. And I said, how about my brothers and sisters? And he said, I forgot the names. I only remember your name. So I'm the always the one who always do all the work at home. But then when as I was growing up, I remember that he was very, very strict, that he always said, like, there are rules in the house. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I want to keep all your kids here. And I wanted to make sure that you have a good life. And he said, but remember, dinner, I want everybody to be home at dinner time. And then I said, what? And he said, yes, but it has to be at 6 o'clock. If nobody comes at dinner at 6 o'clock, then you have no dinner. You can go out and have your own food. And I said, that is ridiculous. But he said, this is how you learn how to be a good person and to learn and also go to school at the same time. So we have a store that helps us to have our expenses for a school. And then one day I told him, I said, Father, can we just sell the store? And he said, why? Because I said, we have to go to school and we have to come back and we have to watch the store. And he said, that's the best way. You learn how to make business and you go to school and when you come back, you don't have to go anywhere. And I said, what do you mean? So he said, I don't want you to go anywhere, but from school, you have to go to the store. And this is how you learn the business, and you can learn more. So he was very strict about going to school and to take my education. And then I said, oh, my God, I don't believe this. But I feel like I feel sometimes that he is very, very strict, that nobody can go anywhere. But then then my father decided to get married, so we have another stepmother, and we went out to have another one half brothers and half sister. He decided to bring everybody together again, and he was very happy that he's still doing all the strict rules and everything, and even my stepmother was very happy to be with us. At that time, my dream was impossible again because somebody found me and someone wants to marry me. So I wound up getting married, and I said, there goes my impossible dream again. And my father said, no, keep on focusing, because you will never know that the impossible dream will become possible if you keep on doing what you wanted to do. So I got married, and then I finally found out that I can apply to go to the United States. So I finally came, I got my dream come true. And now that I'm a parent, I just remember what my father did to me, that I told all my children to have education. Education is very important to everyone, and that if you have education, it's something that nobody can steal from you, but you can give it away. So I'm very thankful, grateful, and very blessed that I have a father who loves me and who makes me who I am today.
Stand still for a second. I'm going to ask our station manager, Isaac, please take a close-up of Lucy. She just got her pin for doing the Triple Crown. In Toastmasters, that's for any Toastmaster who completes 3 separate and different programs in the Toastmasters. Can you get a close-up of the pin that Lucy is wearing? I would appreciate that very much. Nice close-up, please. Richard, that would probably be your camera if you can do it.
Richard, it will close up.
Richard, if you can do a close-up of your wife's pin, I would appreciate it. I can't ask again. All right, Lucy, but anyway, congratulations. It looks very good on you. And thank you for a beautiful speech. Your ending was very, very powerful. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
All right, our final speaker on this show is Sue Brooks. We let Sue out of the control room every once in a while. And Sue is in the New Pathways program that by 2020, we will all be in that program. Some of us are going to go with small steps. Sue just got right in there, and she's sort of leading the pack here. Sue is doing Presenting and Mastery Path, Level 1, Researching and Presenting. She has 7 minutes. Her evaluator is Song Ramasa, and her title is I Am Most Thankful for Healthy Food Options. Let's all welcome Sue Brooks.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, studio audience, and audience at home. There are so many things in this world that we cannot control. However, what you eat, what you put in your mouth, is something you can control. I am so thankful and grateful for healthy food options. Not everybody chooses to become a vegan or a vegetarian for either animal cruelty reasons or health reasons. I am neither a vegan or a vegetarian. However, I do enjoy a plant-based or a mostly plant-based diet. Approximately a year ago, I was speaking with my brother, Dr. David Bernstein, an anesthesiologist based in New Hampshire. He was describing how a plant-based diet can help many people not only enjoy a better life, but in conversations he's had with other physicians, can indeed reverse and prevent diseases. He discussed a man by the name of Dr. Michael Greger, who had written the book, the New York Times best-selling book, How Not to Die. He also mentioned that Dr. Greger recently wrote a cookbook. The How Not to Die cookbook. In addition, Dr. Greger founded the website nutritionsfacts.org. I was intrigued by what my brother, Dr. Bernstein, had said about plant-based diet and was willing to look into this. I did some research and purchased the How Not to Die cookbook and was looking at various recipes and thinking of the things that Dr. Greger had stated, that what you eat is not only instrumental in maintaining a healthy lifestyle, but could prevent advanced diseases, or in some people's cases, reversed existing conditions. Dr. Greger states that with a plant-based diet, one could help their patients, his patients, reverse the need for diabetes, type 2 diabetes medications. Another patient of his had heart disease. Well, after being given a sentence of go home from the hospital, here's your wealth of medications, and that's pretty much it, the woman lived for another 31 years by incorporating a plant-based diet. So I am grateful and thankful that we have these options to make sound decisions, science-based decisions, by eating things and incorporating things into our diets or our way of eating. Earlier in her speech in today's show, Fran was mentioning she's a vegetarian. She doesn't eat meat products. It has to do with animal cruelty. But I'm betting, too, the effect of having plant-based nutrition, that is, incorporating fruits, vegetables, leafy green vegetables, and other vegetables. nuts, seeds, legumes, beans, other things that will help you. Flax seeds, incorporating good beverages such as water, coffee, who knew? And this is not a food, but it's part of Dr. Grieger's daily dozen, exercise. Incorporating these into your eating plan can help you, again, prevent and reverse disease and help you with a healthy lifestyle. Dr. Grieger states that it may not be possible for all of us to eat that way all of the time. So he suggests strive to do your best most of the time. Personally, I try to eat a plant-based diet 2 out of the 3 meals each day, have plant-based snacks, and maybe have 2/3 of my dinner plate being plant-based. The grains, the legumes, the vegetables. Yes, I do eat meat, and it's not a total commitment to having a plant-based diet in my case, but I'm grateful for these options. I'm grateful that I can go into Whole Foods or Wegmans or a food store, Dean's, which supplies lots of natural products and many plant-based products as well, and get the things that I need to control what I have and pack up things to take to work and enjoy a healthy lifestyle. The foods Dr. Grieger recommends are in just like the Toastmasters timing lights, a green light, meaning have this often. Other foods are designated as a yellow light, meaning not so much. And the red light, stop, do not have these foods, or avoid them at any cost. By incorporating a plant-based diet, you can strive to live a more healthy life by choosing what you put in your mouth. Madam Toastmaster.
So you don't have to run back to the control room and then run back out. So I'm very happy to say that you evaluated my speech, and why don't you go with that now while you're up front. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you again, Fran. It was my pleasure to evaluate your speech, your humorous speech. I'm most thankful for my mind. Fran, you did indeed provide us with fun, entertaining stories about your childhood in Breezy Point in Amityville and the adventures that you shared with us. One of the strengths that I found with your speech was your use of the photos, prompting vivid memories. The black and white vintage photos are gorgeous, and they really helped drive home your points. The fact that we were able to present them for sections of the speech where you were describing your adventures. I liked how you used action and adventure coupled with the descriptions of the foods to help hammer home the points. One of your strengths is the vocal variety, where you raised your voice, or then you went a little more slowly. One thing I wished you could have incorporated, and something to keep in mind for future speeches, is just slow down a little. It seemed a little bit rapid at times, but I know you had so many wonderful adventures to share. Thank you again for that speech, and I'm looking forward to hearing more adventures. I appreciate it.
Thank you for using that term, vintage photos. It sort of hits home at this vintage age that I am. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you so much.
Fun evaluation. Thank you. All right, and now Joan Marizio, our other timer. She's a 2-timer. Anyway, we've got to get more people over at the
Don't
timer.
even have one man in my life, so I cannot possibly be a 2-timer.
Well, everybody heart. So,
Oh, have a heart, Joan.
all right, now why don't you tell us
Don't
about
be cruel.
Linda's speech? Joan
Yeah,
Marizio.
this was a fantastic speech. I loved it all the way through. The strong points. She got everything accomplished throughout the whole manual. Anything that the speech icebreaker. This is an icebreaker. She's got 9 more speeches to do. She did them all in the same speech. It was fantastic. How well did we get to know her? She told us so much about her parents, especially the tremendous amount of information about work, career, including ethics and honesty. I love that when people honor their parents by saying nice things like that, especially when they're true. Did it reflect adequate preparation? I said, yes, she had lots to recall. Did she talk clearly and audibly? And I said, yes. A little bit of rapid fire. I think she knew she had a lot of information to get in, and she was under the 7 minutes, so she was still fine with the time, but I think that's why she rushed it a little, because she doesn't normally talk that fast. The opening, body, and conclusion was great. There was no use of notes that I could see. What could she have done differently? And I just said, slow down. That's all. But that you speak slowly, not like I'm doing now very rapidly. And what did you like about the presentation? Everything, especially since it's a great, true story. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Very nice evaluation. Now Paul Paradise will evaluate Kevin's speech. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Fran. Kevin's speech was The Gift of Love, and his was in the Persuade with Power manual. And of all the speakers on the show, I think this was a great speech for Kevin to give because he really knows how to persuade. He's got a great speaking voice. I think he should go into politics because he really knows how to use his body language, how to use pauses. So he started out with, love is something that you don't hear much about today. I don't know whether he adequately answered his own question, but it's certainly true that it's something we don't hear much about in the news. And the crux of his speech was he wanted to challenge us as listeners to use this more in our daily lives. And he used a lot of very good hand gestures in his challenging of us. And he was really very, very persuasive along this. So I took a number of notes here. So if we do this, there'll be no more violence. There would be no more racism. We'd all be much better people all the way around in our lives. So again, I thought this was just a great speech overall, and I learned a lot from it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. I was going to say, doesn't he look good? And now we have John Ramasa, who is our newest member of the Smedley's Club, who joined because his wife's song joined Smedley's the preceding month. Now, if he had another brother at home, would we get him in another club next month? We'd have to go through the whole Ramasa. Oh, wait, you have a grown son?
Yes, I do.
Does he live on Staten Island?
No, he lives in Brooklyn right now.
He can travel.
He could, if I could just get him to be able to be more focused. Get him involved in some more things.
That's up to the two of you now, parents, Anyway, Father's Day will be coming up soon. Mother's Day will be coming soon.
Yes.
There you go. Anyway, John, you're evaluating Lucy's speech about her dad. So let's hear what you had to say. It's your first time up here at the mic. Did you put your button on?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I appeared on Toastmasters.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
All right.
First time.
All right. When you wear your tuxedo next month, then you can wear it'll go very
I
nicely.
feel like I'm getting married again, okay?
So same lady would be fine.
Same one, correct.
Okay, good. John Ramasa.
Okay, so Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests, I'm very thankful for being invited to attend and join the Toastmasters group. My evaluation has to do with Lucy Kahn in reference to what I'm most thankful for, my father. It invokes very good memories on her part in my growing up with my father, teaching and instilling many things into the family that are necessary in today's world. Very heart-cherished memories as far as your father instilling you life lessons that are needed to progress in this life in a manner which hopefully could be heartfelt and loyal and distinguished. The things that Lucy did touch on, that I had no problems with her speech at all as far as comprehending or actually what she relayed in her speech as what invoked the best memories in her life concerning her father contained. It was very, like I said again, very informative. I don't know really else what to say other than the fact is it was a very good speech. I agree wholeheartedly with what the things that she did mention in the speech presented to us, instilled, and again, I'm very grateful for what she brought out.
Great. Thank you very much, John. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I told him that his membership's put in 2 days ago on November 1st, or he wouldn't have been able to do an evaluation legally. So and now we have his wife's song, And song, you evaluated Sue's speech. Let's hear what you thought about that. And are you changing your cooking prowess when you get home? Right, all leafy vegetables?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Oh, well,
I'm teasing you.
all right.
All right, why don't you tell us about Sue's speech?
All right. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster and ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to evaluate Mrs. Sue Brooks' speech, which was I'm most grateful for the healthy food options. Mrs. Sue Brooks explained to me earlier this morning that her speech was a theme speech that incorporated researching and presenting, which was the first level of Toastmasters pathways. Sue excelled at researching her topic, evidenced by citing her references each time clearly. Although there are a wide range of choices on the internet regarding healthy food options, we have to be careful because we need reliable resources. And Mrs. Sue Brooks, as a member of a prestigious Toastmasters organization, I know I can rely on her data and research. Mrs. Sue Brooks did well on the areas of content, speech structure, humor, and rituals, and also eye contact. So I have one recommendation for Sue Brooks, that is, please consider to make more speeches about this subject. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Why don't you handle table topics since we're getting very low on time?
Okay.
All right, there you go.
So at this point, we're heading into table topics. And Kevin, please respond to this. If mirrors could talk, what would yours say to you?
Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. Ms. Isaacs, Dr. Isaacs. My mirror would say, boy, don't you look cute. My mirror would be fairly old, because for it to see me, it had to have been made before I was born. And if this had been a mirror that has followed me through my childhood, they'd seen me start off with very little hair, had a whole lot of hair, ended up getting an afro, and now I'm this beauty that you see standing before you now, with very little hair again. And it would be smiling at me, because through all of this time, it would have had the opportunity to see the joys and pleasures in my life, the good times and bad times. But every day, it would see me smile back at her. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I stole that from Family Feud the other day, and it was just waiting there for you to respond.
Hi, Jane. If you could answer this question, which would you prefer? Would you rather be healthy, wealthy, or wise?
Thank you very much. Healthy, wealthy, or wise? I'd like to be a little bit of both, of all three. But if we think back to the Bible, wisdom was the most important factor. It was what Solomon asked God to give him. And because he asked for wisdom and not for wealth and not for land and not for any of the other things that people may want, it was wisdom that he asked for, and it was that God blessed him with not only wisdom but wealth and many other great pleasures. So thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We have another minute. We might be able to get two more in. The ones that are circled are for people around here.
Okay.
These were questions I did many years ago when I did a couple of youth leadership programs for students. So just pick anything. Someone please come up. We have a little more than 2 minutes, so have a couple of people up on the side quickly now. Don't make me beg.
Fran, how about if you answer one?
Oh, dear Lord.
All right.
Go ahead.
Where were you going the last time you got lost?
Kevin, that wasn't kind. All right, the last time I went someplace, well, I'll tell you, I don't drive much at all anymore, although my son wants me to get in the car, and the car says, please don't let her drive anymore. Anyway, many times, I've been very lucky. Being an official in Toastmasters for 30 years now, plus, I've always had a gentleman to pick me up and take me where we had to go. When I was district governor of District 46, I had Nick LeBeau, who always went out before anything. Our district was from New Jersey all the way out to Montauk Point, and including Staten Island. And Nick would always scope out the trip. A few days before he picked me up, took me out, got me back. I never had to think, because only once in that whole time that we were at the top two, only once did he make a turn, and I said, I think you missed a turn. He said, no, I checked this out. And he was wrong and I was right. But other than that, I've always been picked up. Even when we tried to reestablish the club at Fort Wadsworth on Staten Island, I was picked up by a couple of people who were coming to help me try to establish the Liberty Club again, and they picked me up at my door. I've been very fortunate. Maybe I just look so helpless that the men in my Toastmasters life just don't want to have a problem, so they pick me up. But I would get lost, because there's too many ruts in the roads and everything. Anyhow, all right. We have one minute by the clock. One more. Did I see Paul Paradise? Why don't you go up, Paul? Linda will find you a nice, comfortable.
Please. Time's up.
Oh, time's up. I'm sorry. My eyes. I'm sorry, Paul. Okay, so tune us in, Channel 7 on Staten Island, and if you're part of my crew, you get a tape to take and see how you looked on TV. We'll see you next time on Toastmasters in the Community. Thank you all for tuning in. You did very well with the table topics.
Well, sure.
Yeah. And if everybody from the show will come up and have a group picture, please.